right, so moving on to the next group, middle of the pack. The middle of the pack to me are amplifiers that just simply there's a gap between the ones that we just mentioned, all these brands, and these amplifiers. And you ask me how. Sonically speaking, they just don't nail every aspect of the presentation. They have some shortcomings. For instance, not as much bass, a little loose on the bass. The mid range may not be necessarily the most projected into the room, or there's no space between the instrumentation. The soundstage height and width may not be there, or just overall when you hear this topping group and you go down to the middle tier group, you hear what that middle tier group doesn't do. Once you've heard these components that we heard, you begin to pick apart quite easily. Now, I know the brands that we're going to mention might be brands that you guys love. Before I go there, if you are sensitive to amplifier lines and you're really emotionally attached to your gear, okay, I have to say that because they're going to blast me on my comments. I'm going to say this, guys. These are my personal opinions. One more time about these amplifiers. And Mike may agree or disagree, and I want you, Mike, to do me a favor. Throw in a couple of brands that you may not necessarily have here that you believe should be here on this particular tier group. Maybe I have never owned them, and I'd like to hear from you as well.
Sure.
Okay, middle of the pack. This is what I have for middle of the pack. Sim Audio. Sim Audio to me is definitely middle of the pack. I have not had the honor of owning the 888 monos that are $120,000.
Right.
So that to me would be something that could interest me to see if that 888 deserves to be at the top with the other big heavy hitters.
Yep.
Right? Everything else that I've owned from Sim Audio has never disappointed, guys. I think they really are worth their money. The 860 V1, the 860 V2, incredible amplifiers. I love what they did. When I had the 860 V1, the Revell Salon 2s, PS Audio DAC in my early days,
Okay.
and the Audio Research Reference 10 line stage. It was a mind-blowing combination.
Really?
That's when I started to really realize I was finding synergy.
Right.
Okay, so ever since that time, I began to continue to experience Sim Audio gear. I love the Sim Audio house sound. I think they build great line stages. Like their preamplifiers are supposed to be special.
And their digital is very good. Very, very
Really?
good. Yeah, very good.
And I feel like their construction is really top notch.
Very good.
Right?
Great company. Really good.
That's what I keep hearing.
Yeah.
Great company to do
Really
business
good.
with. Great
Yeah.
people to deal
Great
with.
folks, yeah.
So definitely, sonically speaking, there's nothing really negative to say about Sim Audio, in my opinion. Overall, it's a great brand. But I do believe they may not go the distance and get close enough to the big brands that we just talked about. Okay, so next one, Jeff Rowland. I have not talked about Jeff Rowland.
That's an interesting one.
But I'm going to talk about Jeff Rowland. And I'm going to be very open about what I'm about to say. Rumor has it that Mr. Jeff Rowland does not want Jay to have his new line of amplifiers, namely the 735 monos. I do not know if this is true. I can't say if this came out and it was just complete BS, but I do not understand why it would be bad for Jay to have the Jeff Rowland amplifier 735. I believe if a brand builds a great product, right, and you believe in and you trust what you're doing,
right,
and I have the right components, which I have the right environment, the right cables, everything that a good brand would need. What's the fear in sending me something? I'm not going to set it up with bad power cords. I'm not going to use bad speaker cables. I'm not going to use bad speakers or a bad DAC or a bad preamplifier. Here's my take with Jeff Rowland. When it comes to Class D, guys, I do not like anything Jeff Rowland builds. Okay? Class D amplifiers, to me, I believe I had a pair of 525s, I think that it was, that you can turn into mono configuration. I never liked the sound. The 925s I had as well, the big boy, 2 chassis 925s. They were like $60,000. Great amplifiers. It's a combination of solid state, I think, with Class D on those 925s. But then, guys, I heard and this is another brand I'm going to be talking about. I heard the Merrill Audio 118 Class D, full Class D, come into my room and destroy the Roland 925, completely demolish it. I had 4 different individuals come into my room and do an A and B comparison of the Jeff Roland 925 against the Merrill Audio 118s, guys, and the 118s took it all day, every day.
Wow.
I love the look of Jeff Roland. I love the construction, the feel, the quality of the product. I love the binding post. I know he's big on Cardus cabling. The preamplifiers, I like that 2 chassis preamplifier with the external power supply. I can't remember the name anymore. It's been a minute since I've had it. They're his top of the line preamplifier. Overall, great product. Here's the biggest knock: bass. It's just not there. Jeff Roland, to me, doesn't have the bass control. It doesn't have that grunt. It doesn't have that grip on the woofers. It doesn't really take it up a notch. As a matter of fact, I believe the Sim Audio 860 V2 has far better bass than the 925 Jeff Rollins that I have, which
That's
are 3 times the price.
It's
And monos. Okay. It's nothing personal against the brand. I just feel like Jeff Roland builds better Class AB amplifiers, namely the 625 S2.
I was just going to say, we had a 625 S2 in here on trade, and my God, was it a good amplifier. I was thinking, it's not very big, but it sounded wonderful. I thought it was a terrific amplifier.
So if I'm going to buy anything Jeff Roland, in my opinion, again, do a Class AB amplifier. That to me, and if you're hearing this, Jeff Roland, work on Class AB. Stop doing Class D. You excel at Class AB. Forget about Class D. Is just, we hear all the stories about giant killers. Class D giant killers coming out of nowhere, murdering the top of the line Class A solid state amplifiers, right?
Right.
To me, I think Jeff Roland should continue to do 625 S2, maybe an MK3.
Yeah. Well, what I heard was the 735, and I don't know this, 100%, but I had heard that they had designed it, they had built it, and one of the suppliers had gone out of business and stopped producing them. So there's not. I could be wrong. I don't want to get
things may have changed.
Things may have changed.
I just want to make sure I remember.
I was told that there was some design issues that they were going to have to either go back to the drawing board or keep it to a very limited number. So I do have a funny Jeff Roland story if we have time. Okay, so it was about the 625 S2, but anyway, I think we were at Expona or it might have been Rocky Mountain. We were at one of the shows, and there was a company there a new company, we're going to remain nameless, that had produced these two new tube amps, and everybody was coming to hear their new tube amplifiers, right? And this is a company that's not famous for making amplifiers. Well, just prior to the show, they went up in smoke, literally.
Oh my God! Really?
So scrambling around trying to find an amplifier for this room, Jeff Roland was so gracious and loaned a 625 S2. But this manufacturer couldn't let people know that they weren't listening to the tube amps.
Yes.
So the tube amps they got them to be able to glow, but they weren't working. They weren't outputting any music. But the 625 was covered up and in the background. But the funniest thing is everybody coming in and thinking they were listening to the tube amps and commenting on how great the tube amps sound. Meanwhile, it was a little 625 S2 in the background. Anyway, funny little side
That's
story.
interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't had the pleasure of listening to the 625 S2, but I do know a lot of you guys own it and love it. I hope to hear it someday. Going back to my last statement, Class AB, Jeff Roland. Stick to Class AB. All right, the next brand, Merrill Audio, specifically the 118 monos. I know you have never heard it.
No, I haven't. I did hear him at the show. I did hear him.
Okay, you heard it.
And I thought they sounded very good.
Very good.
Yeah.
What I like about the Merrill Audio, the Element 118s, because that's the only one I've owned. I've also owned the Christine preamplifier, which I've said it before. I think that preamplifier punches way, way above its weight. I believe the MSRP is like $12,500 with an external power supply. And it really, really blew my mind every time. It really, really, in my opinion, is one of the best bang for the buck preamplifiers you can get. It's extremely neutral. I hate the remote control. I will say it's an Apple TV remote control, right?
Right.
And it sucks because you have to pair it, and sometimes it doesn't pair. There has been a lot of conversation about that. I did have a couple of issues for full transparency with you guys with the display of the Christine preamplifier. I think it was twice, and I don't know if the designer from Merrill Audio has already addressed these issues with the display of that preamplifier. I know there's a new one coming out, so it might already be retired. Who knows? Merrill Audio 118, this just completely destroyed the Jeff Rowland 925, guys. I mean, there was absolutely nothing to talk about there. It was just clear. One of the greatest things, as a matter of fact, one of the best systems that I built was the Merrill Audio 118, Audio Research Reference 6 SE, Wilson Audio Alexia 2s, and a DCS DAC. Let me tell you something. That system, that was incredible, Mike. That was incredible, because what I like about the 118s is if you need a little more sweetness,
You got it from the tube preamp.
easily.
Yeah.
And it just follows what you do behind it. It follows everything. It doesn't stay sound, because there's a lot of accusations with regards to being made with regards to Class D sounding cold and sterile and just bright, and it's just edgy and it's just crappy, right? But I felt like the 118, naturally speaking, sonically speaking, it's actually on the warmer side.
Interesting.
When you play it by itself, it's actually a little warmer.
That's interesting.
And if you need to inject some musicality, it does that by using a preamplifier with or a DAC, a lamp fixator. But the cool thing is that you can put tubes behind it, and it has the slam in the bass of the Class D to help the tube.
I would be very curious to know how the design of the Merrill 118s compares to the MBL Noble amplifiers, which are also sort of a hybrid Class D. They have I believe I don't remember what the power supply is, but they also sound warm. So there might be some similarities there. It'd be interesting to look into.
I mean, to go out, I'm going to go all out and say that's the best Class D amplifier I've ever owned. I mean, I've had different versions, different brands, and I think the Element 118, because it gets out of the way with what you do, it doesn't impose a character per se.
Yeah.
I loved it. And it comes with built-in footers already, the isoacoustic footers already. It never runs hot. You can leave it on 24/7. As a matter of fact, there's no way of turning it off. There's no power on or off button.
Well, that's interesting.
You plug it in and it comes on. There's no way of turning it off. So, and it never heats up your room. It's got it's got speed. It's got great bass control. Very impressive. I can tell you, a case could be made for me to put this as last place of tier group number 1.
Interesting.
And what's really interesting is the market perception of Class D is very poor. So when people see a Merrill Audio 118 on the used market or 116 or whatever, it's Class D, it's no good. You'd be shocked.
There's some diamonds in the rough.
I'm telling you, you would be shocked what that amplifier does.
Yeah.
The next one I have here, okay, here, grab your AK-47s. This is the time. Pull them out. Pull out your shotguns.
I think I know what he's going
9
to say.
millimeters. Bring them out right now, please. Okay, it is time. Pass Labs. Mid-fi. I've said it. I'm behind. And this man is a Pass Labs dealer. And he's here taking it. So that you guys who talk all the time
I love Pass Labs.
About, oh my God, dealers sell and so they have to say what they like. I'm here in Mike's house telling Mike to his face, I think Pass Labs is mid-fi. It's an opinion. It's just an opinion. It's one man's opinion. Simple as that. Okay? Pass Labs to me deserves to be here with this group. When I first started doing this journey, to me, my aspirations at that time was to hopefully one day afford Pass Labs.
Right.
Because you saw it in the magazines,
Yeah.
YouTube, Nelson Pass, his name, reputation. It would be an honor for me at that point in time to own Pass Labs.
Yeah.
And I got to the .5 series, which, by the way, I still love.
Love the .5 series.
.5 is beautiful sounding stuff. .8 comes out. I own basically just about every Pass Labs amplifier that he currently produces. And the musicality is there. The tube-like presentation is there, including the loose bass. I will say that. It doesn't have the same grip, again, of the higher top-end brands. But for me, it fails to create innovation. You want to know what I mean by innovation? Block Audio. I had a conversation with Past Labs over the phone, maybe about 3-4 months ago. I think Kent, he responded, he picked up the phone, I gave him my feedback. At that point in time, I actually was talking to him about the XS300s, which you guys have seen on my channel. And the heat, it was a damn sauna in my room. I was sweating, my legs were sweaty. I was here and there was sweat coming down from my, from my lower legs, okay? And it took like a week. You can go on vacation and come back and the amplifiers were still trying to hit their stride. It takes that long for those amplifiers to hit their stride. And I told Ken, there's got to be a way that you guys can make this more efficient. There has to be a way. Long story short, their answer to me was, we do not want to interfere with the circuitry, the design that has been working for us, what has been our winning formula. We believe introducing some sort of a eco-friendly mode or other devices inside is going to compromise what we have been working hard, what we have been doing, what we have been working on for so long. It's going to interfere, it's going to negate or mitigate our efforts. So I gave him feedback. Block Audio, eco mode. Far superior than Past Labs, than any amplifier that Past Labs has, to me, in my opinion, that has ever built. 2 chassis. Why are they able to do it? How can Block Audio have innovation? How can they create a product that's so friendly, eco-friendly, that doesn't pull out of power when you don't need it to? You don't need to have it on for a week for it to sound good. Past Labs has to find a way to do this. I've been saying it, innovation. They have been the same for a long time. A lot of these mid-fi brands, just to be transparent here, to me, are brands that have not really moved their needles at all, if that makes sense. They have stayed at 60 miles an hour because that's at the speed in which they cannot get a speeding ticket. So they're in the safe zone.